Hello, people. In this online series classes, I'll be taking your history and civics class of class 10 according to ICSE syllabus. So, before we start our class today, let me tell you what is there in the syllabus of history and civics. Basically, in civics, you have 6 chapters dealing with the parliament, the president, the vice president, the prime minister, the cabinet minister, Supreme Court, High Court, and the subordinate courts. 6 chapters are there. In history, history is divided into 2 parts. The first part, which deals with the Indian history, starting with the First War of Independence, ending at the independence of India and the partition, and the contemporary world, which is the second part, deals with the first, starts basically with the First World War and ends with the non-aligned movement. So there are 16 chapters in history and 6 chapters in civics. Today, while teaching, I'll be looking down sometimes because the textbook is there in front of me. I hope you all have your textbooks with you so that you can follow what I teach. So basically, we'll start off with the First War of Independence of 1857. Why is it the First War of Independence? The First War of Independence, the chapter's name is such because it is the first war of independence against the Britishers, which was fought by the Indians, and the Indians came from different parts of the society. The Hindus, the Muslims, forgetting their traditional rivalry, they came. The farmers came, the soldiers came, the educated class to a certain extent came. So it was the first war against the Britishers which the Indians fought, although they did not succeed in this war. But they gave an impetus, they gave the courage to the Britishers to fight against this war, fight against the Britishers in the future struggles. So it is written, it occurred means this war occurred at a time when for various reasons there was great discontentment in the country. Discontentment means dissatisfaction in the country. The Hindus and Muslims, forgetting their traditional differences, combined against the British masters. The Hindus and Muslims combined against the British masters. They did not succeed in their mission, although the war was not a success. But the events of 1857 continued to inspire the Indians in the struggle against the British Raj. What did this war do? The war was an inspiration for the Indians in their struggle against the British Raj. Now, there must be certain causes why this war started. So there are basically 4 causes. One is the political causes. Second is the religious and social causes, which is also known as the socio-religious causes. Third is the economic cause. And the fourth is the military cause. Now, let us discuss the causes, which is very important from your examination point of view. First, dealing with the political causes. If you have your textbooks in front of you, please open. You will find the first point is the doctrine of lapse. What is doctrine of lapse? Lord Dalhousie introduced this doctrine of lapse. Basically, it meant, it is written, please remember the definition, it is very important. It meant that when a ruler of a dependent state died without a natural heir. What do you mean by natural heir? Natural heir means own son or own daughter, own successor who will succeed the state passed back to the British Company. It means if a king dies without having a son or a daughter of its own, the state will go under the British. Moreover, if the king has a adopted son, the adopted son will only inherit the private property of the king, which means the adopted son can inherit only the private assets, means the palace, might be some horses, some elephants, but not the states which were under the king. That too, if the British people or the British Raj allows. So this was basically meant by the doctrine of lapse. You should always also remember that what were the states that came under the doctrines. Name the states. It's often asked. Basically, 3 prominent states. Lots of other states also came under the grasp of the doctrine of lapse, but the 3 prominent states were Satara, Jhansi and Nagpur. This is for the first cause. Second cause is discourtesy. What is discourtesy? Discourtesy means disrespect shown to the Mughal emperor. Now, who was the Mughal emperor then? Bahadur Shah was the Mughal emperor. He was an emperor of the Mughals. In those days, he was an emperor in title only. He just had the name Badshah, Bahadur. He did not have any power. But that too was also devalued. Whatever little power he had or the title he had, that was also taken away by Lord Dalhousie when he announced that after the death of the Mughal emperor, that means after the death of Bahadur Shah, his successor or successors who will succeed, they will have to leave the Red Fort, which were their imperial palace. Moreover, Lord Canning added, what did he add? He added that after the death of Bahadur Shah, his children will not be able to use the imperial title. Imperial title means the title of king. They will not be allowed. This also added to the discontentment against the Britishers. Number 3, treatment meted out, given to Nana Sahib. Now, who was Nana Sahib? Nana Sahib was the adopted son of ex-Peshwa, who was Baji Rao II. Now, what happened to him? Lord Dalhousie refused to give pension to Nana Sahib. Now, you should remember, this was a very hard blow to the Hindus, because it is said that Nana Sahib had inherited enormous wealth from ex-Peshwa. Nana Sahib, who was the adopted son of Baji Rao, he got a lot of wealth from the ex-Peshwa. So, he was highly respected among the Hindus. Hindus did not take it in a very good way when the Britishers refused pension to Nana Sahib, because they said that you are the adopted son of the Peshwa, not the real son. But Nana Sahib was a very rich man. Why? Because he got a lot of property from his father. So what did he do? He sent emissaries. Emissaries means people who goes from one place to another on behalf of the king to spread something, to give a message or to spread a message. What did he do? Emissaries means basically ambassadors. Ambassadors means people going from one country to another country or one state to another state on the behalf of the king to spread a message or to create consciousness among people. He spent money in sending emissaries to different parts of the country and instigating means adding fuel to fire, instigating revolt everywhere. That Nana Sahib did. This is the third point of the political reason. Now comes the fourth, annexation of Awadh. On 7th February 1856, Nawab Wajid Ali Shah was deposed on ground that Awadh was not being managed well. What did the Britishers said? The Britishers said to Nawab Wajid Ali that you are not being able to manage Awadh very well. So the court of directors, the Britishers, ordered that Awadh should be completely annexed. Why? Because the Britishers said that you cannot manage Awadh. So the annexation of Awadh was certainly a case of high-handedness. That means very brutal step and a very high-handed and a very egoistic step by the Britishers on the part of the company. Part of the company. Company over here means the Britishers. Why? The Britishers insulted Nawab Wajid Ali Shah. He said that you cannot manage. So we are annexing it. Why? We are annexing it because we will be able to manage it well. Over here also, the Britishers broke all the promises which they made to the ruling chiefs. What promises did they make? The promises which they made was that we will look after you. We will take care of you. If you take care of us, if you pay the taxes to us, we will take care of you. But they did not keep their promises. So the talukdars and the zamindars of Awadh, they also became very much dissatisfied. So Awadh played a major role in the War of 1857. A question is often asked, what was the role of the annexation of Awadh in the revolt in the first War of Independence of 1857? Now, this is the fourth point. Fifth point is unpopular administration, which is also known as administrative failures. Now, there were several reasons which made British administration or the British administrators extremely unpopular. Why? Number one, people found themselves out of place with the English laws and English language. The British officials had no knowledge of manners, customs, and habits of the people. The Britishers came from a European country, so their manners, their customs, their social norms were completely different from the Indian manners, the Indian customs, and the Indian social norms. So there was an alienation. There was a difference between the Britishers and the Indians. Secondly, the Indians were being excluded from high officials in the army as well as the administration. Obviously, everyone knows that not a single Indian got high posts in the army. They did not get any high posts in the British administration officers. All the British officers, European officers, that is the British officers, they got the high posts, and the Indians, they only got the lower categories of the lower post, and they also did not go up the administrative level. They just remained at the base level. Third, the British officials had great contempt. Contempt means ill treatment. To show down, to look down upon. That is contempt. For the Indians, their arrogance led to them to consider the natives of India as undeserving human beings. Such a horrible word. Such a such a horrendous word. Undeserving human beings. They considered Indians as undeserving human beings. Such arrogance they had. Obviously, the Indians will not take it in good spirit. And obviously, sixth point is the vague and floating rumors. What were the rumors? That the company's rule in India were numbered. People believed that the power of the Britishers will come to an end after the Battle of Plassey. The Britishers came into power after the Battle of Plassey, and their rule will come to an end in 1857, because they thought that after the Battle of Plassey, the Indians went under the British rule. The British became powerful. So with the Battle of Plassey, they came to power, and with this First War of Independence in 1857, they will lose their power. That they had their false confidence. So these points are political causes which you have to remember. Second is that today we'll also learn about religious and social causes. Why religion and social causes are clubbed together? Because religion is extremely dependent on social norms. Religion depends on the society, society also depends on the religion. They are interrelated. Religion cannot thrive in thin air. Religion has to thrive in a society. The society is bound by a certain religion, identity, some religious customs. It marks a society. Now, first was that fears regarding mass conversion, fears regarding mass conversion to Christianity. Indians thought that the missionaries which came to India, they will convert the Indians to Christian. So it was alarming both for the Muslims and the Christians and the Hindus. Muslims and the Hindus. It was alarming for both Muslims and the Hindus. Why? Because the Christians came with the Bible. They came with the Bible and they started spreading the faith of Christianity. It was alarming for them. Then laws that interfered with religious customs. Now they started making laws which interfered with their religious custom. What were the laws? The Act of 1850 changed the Hindu law of property. And what did it change? It changed that if previously it was that if a Hindu son converts into Christianity, his father can disinherit him from the property. The son will not get the property. But the Britishers came and changed the law and said that if a Hindu son converts himself to Christian religion, he can have the property. Widow Remarriage Act was passed. Sati was banned. These things, although they were good, but according to the Indians, it was an interference to their social customs. Then, introduction to railways and telegrams. So, telegrams and telegraphs, what happened? When railway coaches were introduced, caste system was prevalent in Indian society. So, it was unthinkable that higher class people and lower class people are traveling together. It angered the Indians, so they went a bit against the Britishers. Telegraph poles were planted in different places. A rumor was spreading that the Britishers will hang the Indians over there. So these things were new to the Indian society, and they went against the Britishers because they thought that they were disrespecting the age-old Indian customs. Then there was indignities or disrespect hurled at Indians. The Englishmen in India could insult, humiliate, and even kill the Indians at their will. They were so much disrespected. The Indians were disrespected. If a British person is riding on a horseback and an Indian was also riding on a horseback, the Indian has to wait until the British Sahab passes. So these things were there. And obviously fears regarding English education, because Christian missionaries had established a number of schools in British India. Gradually a number of government schools also began to grow. So madrasas and different Hindu education system, the Muslim education system, they started fearing that, oh God, they have Oriental or the English mediums has started, it goes against the Indian or Hindu customs then. But shifting of emphasis from Oriental learning to Western education was not well received by the people, especially the Pandits and Maulavis. Why? Because they saw it was an attempt to discourage Islamic and Hindu studies. So today we learnt about the political causes and the socio-religious causes. In the next session, we will discuss about the economic and military causes, and if time permits, we will also discuss the consequences of the first war of independence. Hope you have understood this session, and if there is any portion which you have not understood, you can always pause and go back and see what I have said, and along with what I have said, you should also consult the textbook. Have a nice day. Thank you.